Hi, welcome. Well, today is my very first Flip the Classroom, and I made it especially for you, my second year students, because this is so hard. So today we're going to look at the menstrual cycle, which you can see on this board, and no worries, I'm going to send a picture of this to you because it's not actually in your book. Where can you find the information? Well, it's actually here at paragraph 11.1 on page 132 in your textbook, which actually got the written explanation of the diagram that you're going to show over here, that I'm going to show you over here. So let's start. The first thing you need to know is that this is the schedule of the actual menstrual cycle, and the menstrual cycle is about 28 days, and so this entire thing happens in about 28 days. And it all starts with this organ over here, which is your pituitary gland. And you can find this here at the bottom of your brain. And it's a tiny bit of bean-like organ that is creating two very important hormones. It's producing more, but those two are important for this cycle, which is FSH and LH, the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. Follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone. Well, the follicle stimulating hormone is, not surprisingly, stimulating the follicle to grow. And the follicle is growing, and you can see this over here, ripening follicle, and it has a positive effect on it. That's what the plus is meaning. So FSH and LH both got a positive effect on the ripening of the follicle. And when that happens, the follicle starts to produce a hormone, which we call estrogen over here. And estrogen, which is the female sex hormone, got a positive effect on the inner lining of the uterus. So on the inside of the uterus, a mucus layer starts to grow, which is very important because that makes it possible for an egg cell to attach itself to the wall of the uterus and eventually grow into a baby. Why didn't it happen why didn't it happen any sooner with you? Well, when you are still a child, then the pituitary gland isn't doing anything like this. So you need to be a girl, like above 12, something like that, before this process actually starts to happen. On the other end, we have this organ over here, the corpus luteum. What is that? Well, when the follicle is ripening, after 14 days, ovulation happens. And when ovulation happens, an egg cell is being released out of the follicle sac. The follicle sac stays behind, which we call the corpus luteum. And it's yellow. In Dutch heet het gele lichaam. And it has to do with the fact that it's absorbing fat, so it's got a yellow color. And the corpus luteum produces a very important pregnancy hormone, progesterone. And progesterone, this hormone, also got a positive effect on the inner lining of the uterus. So the mucus layer inside the uterus becomes way thick, contains lots of blood, and is very saturated. And but they also do something else. What you don't want is multiple pregnancies at once. We're not cats, we can't do that. There are cats that can have multiple pregnancies, so they will have kittens, and then a couple of weeks later they got kittens again, stuff like that. Not gonna happen to us, lucky for us, and that's also a reason why you should sterilize your cats. We can't do that, and it all had to do with those two hormones, because those two also got a negative effect on the production of LH and FSH. So you see those lines over here with the minus with it. It is blocking the production of FSH and LH. When they block it, then there is no new follicle ripening, no new egg cell released, and therefore no new pregnancy. Which is a good thing. But eggs don't live like forever. Normally, like say in most of the time, you are not pregnant. Yeah, you've got your cycle, and then after 14 days you've got ovulation, and an egg cell lives only for 24 days. Again, 24 hours. What's with that? 24 hours. So an egg cell is being released. It goes through the fallopian tube towards the uterus. It's gonna take him a couple of days. And when nothing happens, it dies after a day. So if you didn't have unsafe sex, if you didn't have sex at all, or in the wrong period, then nothing's going to happen, and the egg will fall apart after 24 hours. When there is no egg, it's not in contact anymore with the corpus luteum. And normally the egg and the corpus luteum are like talking to each other. And as long as they're together, the corpus luteum produces progesterone. But when the egg dies, then the corpus luteum is thinking, well, what the hell, should I be doing here? I'm not necessary anymore. And it stops producing progesterone, and it's also decaying. So it falls apart. It's not working anymore. When there is no progesterone or low levels of progesterone and low levels of estrogen, there is no reason for the inner lining to stay inside. And after 28 days, the levels of progesterone and estrogen are dropped so far that the inner lining is being pushed out of your uterus. And you feel this because it's a crampy feeling, because the uterus is actually containing out of muscles, so they are contracting. It's quite painful. You can feel it like back pain, or it makes you a bit cranky. But when it happens, progesterone and estrogen are not having a negative effect anymore on FSH and LH. And that's when the cycle starts over again. When you are pregnant, the egg isn't disappearing. So the corpus luteum stays intact. And when it stays intact, progesterone stays intact. And the levels of progesterone are rising and rising, eventually getting so high that are being released in your urine. And that is the reason why you can use a pregnancy test like that. If you pee on it, then it's detonating progesterone. And then you know of detecting is a better word, detecting progesterone. And that is for you a reason to know that you are pregnant. So the inner lining of the uterus also stays there, because you definitely don't want to lose that. Because when an egg is actually fertilized, it can become a baby. You don't want to lose that. So to make sure that you don't lose it, progesterone and estrogen are keeping the inner lining intact because of the corpus luteum that is still there. And the egg, after a couple of days, reaches the uterus and digs itself in the inner lining of your uterus, and that is the beginning of a pregnancy. Well, that is the schedule. I hope it makes it a little bit easier for you. So remember, you've got your pituitary gland. It's producing two hormones, FSH and LH. They both got a positive effect on ripening a follicle. When the follicle is ready, it bursts at day 14. We call this ovulation. The corpus luteum is being created, and corpus luteum starts to produce two hormones, progesterone and estrogen. And those two hormones have a negative effect on the production of FSH and LH. So no new eggs are being released. They got a positive effect on the inner lining of the uterus, which becomes thick and ready for a baby. Thank you so much for my first Flip the Classroom. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've still got any questions, please don't hesitate to come in contact with me by sending me an email or magister. Bye bye, and I wish to see you very, very soon.